For more, I'm joined now by Lolwah Al-Khater. She is Assistant Foreign Minister of Qatar, and she's live for us in Doha at this hour. Minister, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us here on the show. As you heard me say, we're learning that a team of Qatari technical experts are in Kabul at the Taliban's request. What is the Taliban asking of Qatar, requesting help right now from Qatar with?
Thank you very much, Isa. Actually, it's been also upon the request of our international partners that we work with the power there on the ground in Afghanistan to resume the operations in the airport so that the outbound flights as well as the inbound flights can just resume normal operations. As you can imagine, after many experts have left the country and after the operators, and many of them have been foreigner companies basically and experts have fled the country, Taliban is left with very little expertise to run the airport. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is actually the actual infrastructure. It seems like many of the equipment is damaged or actually was taken. And of course, there is a blame game there between the different parties on the ground who has done this or that. Our role here, our technical team there, is basically to facilitate, work with the international partners to resume the operations in the airport.
And so, Minister, do you know at this stage whether Qatar would be providing security and operating airport operation, and if so, for how long?
Well, not security, and this remains a debated topic. It seems like Taliban is insisting on the security aspect, yet what they don't realize is security in an airport is very different from securing the outer or the surrounding side of the airport. So they don't realize things like biometrics and all the measures that any international airport has to have in order to operate. So we're trying to negotiate this to explain the complexity of the process, but the security is definitely an element that will not be with us in Qatar. And we're discussing this with Taliban and the international partners. Our part would be the technical assistance, as well as eventually helping with the aircrafts as well.
Now, Qatar has been playing a key role. Our correspondent was just saying that in Doha, in terms of the communication front with the Taliban. Why do you feel, Minister, that this is important right now?
Well, it's extremely important because there needs to be a constructive engagement. I mean, Isa, in the G7 meeting that happened only a couple of days ago, which Qatar, Turkey, the NATO, and the EU, also joined, there was an agreement that there needs to be constructive engagement with Taliban simply because they are the de facto authority there right now. Now, in terms of our role in mediating and also facilitating those discussions between Taliban and the international partners, you might have heard that many of the EU missions, as well as the United States mission, diplomatic mission, Japan's, also South Korea's mission, will all relocate to Doha. So this will be a chance to facilitate a real discussion around the contested issues, as well as facilitating all the other operations for the citizens of those countries, as well as Afghan citizens who would or might end up evacuating to those countries.
Do you worry, I know you're talking about constructive engagement, the importance of constructive engagement with the Taliban at this stage, Minister, but do you worry, first of all, do you trust the Taliban and their promises they're being made? And do you worry, frankly, that it could backfire?
Well, we have our own worries and concerns, no question about that. This needs to be a trust-building process. We all agreed with our international partners that rushing into recognition is not necessarily the wisest decision to make now, yet a constructive dialogue is extremely important. So it will be a trust-building process. It's very important, Isa, that all of us collectively build and capitalize on the pragmatism that Taliban has shown so far. Taliban needs the international community. They realize this, they say this, and that's why we need to capitalize on this moment. Shutting them down completely is not going to be very helpful in this situation. That's why we need to think of other ways to engage with them without undermining human rights, without undermining women's rights, without undermining all the international standards that we all collectively embrace. And we think that there is a real opportunity here to rationalize their public actions. Now, changing their ideology might take years and decades if it's going to happen altogether. Yet, rationalizing their public actions should be our very clear and pragmatic aim. We don't care, and we shouldn't care about their private actions within their own private spheres. What should matter is the public sphere. What should matter is their public actions. What should matter is the collective good and interest of the people of Afghanistan. At the end of the day, Isa, and I will conclude with this point, at the end of the day, we should not be focusing only on the elitists in the Afghan society. We should be looking at the wider society, rural areas, other provinces. Those people will eventually suffer economically unless we jump in as the international community and help. And this, unfortunately, cannot happen without engaging with all parties on the ground. And we've been pushing for an inclusive government with the Taliban in our past discussions, and still until this very moment, we've been pushing for more women participation. We've been pushing for women education. At the end of the day, I mean, there are many Muslim countries who are engaging in discussions with them, including Qatar, and we have women education, we have women participating in the workforce. More than 50% of our workforce are women. All of those points we try to push in our discussions with Taliban. Once again, I want to emphasize what matters is their public actions, and they showed a great deal of pragmatism that we as the international community should capitalize on.
So there's so far you're seeing a great deal of pragmatism. I'm not sure whether you're seeing any evidence yet of a gentler, more inclusive Taliban. I don't know if you've seen that. If you give us an idea, if you've seen that, you heard that from them. But I'm also keen to know, Minister, what is the red line for Qatar? Of course, we're hearing all these promises from the Taliban, but where does Qatar draw the line? You mentioned human rights, you mentioned women's issues as well, as women integration society. Where do you draw that line?
Well, there is a red line, definitely, but human rights and women's rights is also a spectrum. And now what we have said and communicated very clearly that a recognition, even from the side of Qatar, will only come if there is an inclusive government, and this will be the first gesture that we would accept as a state of Qatar from the Taliban side.
Lolwah Khater, the Qatari Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much, Minister, for taking time to speak to us here on CNN.